people usually come to me for change if they've seen a picture of themselves and they're out of shape, or they have a hospital visit and they have a doctor scare. This is why I try to get all my clients to do a biological age test, because when they see that their biological age is much higher than their chronological, usually that scares the shit out of them. They're like, tell me what to do. I want to do it all, you know?
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. We're always taking you to your highest vibe. It's about mind, body, and energy. You know, that's why we have our guest today. We want to bring you energy. We want to bring you the latest supplements, the latest insights. We got Kris Gethin. What's up, Kris?
Hey, thank you for having me on the show, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I admire your physique from far, and then I got watching your videos, and I'm like, hey, guy, I like this guy. I like what he's saying too, you know. So I was like, you look good, man. I look at bodybuilders like that, and I know how much fucking work they put in, and that is no joke. So hats off and kudos. I know you work your ass off to do some of the things you've done.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I don't consider it work though, because I feel it's a necessity for me. You know, for me to not go into the gym means that life is going to be a white knuckle ride. So it's more for mental stability more than anything. And obviously the more that I push myself in the gym, the better that I feel after. So I love anything that's challenging, you know?
Yeah. I know you're originally from Wales. You know, talk to me about what's the biggest difference for someone, you know, like Wales and in the UK. I mean, we're all so modernized now. It's not that different, but you obviously, what keeps you in the U.S. and what was it like growing up in Wales?
So growing up in Wales, you know, I loved it growing up. You know, I raced motocross from the age of 6 to like 10, and I grew up on a farm, had a lot of adventure. I was an only child for the first 9 years, and I absolutely loved it. But then as soon as I got into my 20s, I just wanted to get out of there because I felt that there was no opportunity for me as a qualified personal trainer and sports therapist. Luckily, those qualifications that I had were internationally recognized, so then I was able to fly the coop. But now, as I'm older, I appreciate Wales so much more. You know, the clean air, the people, very down to earth. It's kind of like Middle Earth, the land of the hobbits. You know, we're all pretty short. I'm like the tallest in my family at 5'8". But, you know, just really good people. And there's just not much in a way of rural, you know, cities. It's definitely much more rural. And, you know, when you're in nature, you just feel better. So other than that is great, but the weather sucks. You know, it's raining quite often.
Yeah. Now we're in Boise, Idaho, which is, you know, when you first said that, when we were talking pre-episode, you didn't strike me as a potato guy, which is, you know, what I think of when I think of Idaho. Yeah, I don't know. That's
funny. Yeah, it's known of potatoes, isn't it? But yeah, I'm not a huge potato person, to be honest with you. But I love the four seasons. I love camping. I love mountain biking. I love hiking. I love hitting a lake in the summer. You know, just all these things that are available to us. And, you know, there's a ski slope next to me, like 30 minutes away. And then there's a really good, like, an hour and a half away. So I just love the adventures that you get in a place that offers four seasons.
Nature or nurture, Kris, for you in what has become, you know, a health-focused lifestyle, you know, and journey throughout your career? I mean, was that just innate in you that got unlocked? I mean, what turned that on?
It was definitely injuries from motocross. This is a crazy thing. While I was racing motocross, of course, I had to keep my weight down as light as possible. So it was a lot of cardio, a lot of mountain biking, running, etc. A lot of time on the bike. But I used to purchase, as a kid, bodybuilding magazines, because I was never really into comic books. I liked a little bit of Judge Dredd, but other than that, I loved seeing these real life comic book heroes. You know, I thought it was just fascinating. So I don't know if that kind of planted the seed, but when I suffered an injury to my spine. I've got a major curvature of my spine. I saw osteopaths, physical therapists, and it wasn't until I started doing physio through resistance training that I started to get alleviated of the discomfort and the pain and the depression that I was going through because of the pain. So it was very elevating for me. So that's why I decided to go down that pathway and then, seek knowledge by going to college so I could learn more about feeling better about myself, and that's kind of what's got me hooked on it since. And yeah, of course, the aesthetics, that was important for a while, especially when I was competing in natural bodybuilding. But further from that, I just like to look at prioritizing a health now, because when I was in school, I failed everything. I hated school. I couldn't retain content. But as soon as I started eating a little bit better, starting the day with movement, etc., I was able to retain content so much more efficiently. And that's why I loved college, and then successfully completed that course, which I never would have several years before.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I think about that journey of the aches of the body that enlightened the mind to go search out those solutions, and then sounds like a passion developed. It seems like the more people I talk to, the traumatic events, sometimes, bad habits, sometimes, again, injuries. It seems like that is a lot of the starting place for these transformations that happen. And then from there, when someone starts to really take care of themselves and unlocks their brains and the passion for these types of things, then it's like the world is your oyster. You just go at it. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you have to try before you buy, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people may look at it from the outside in and think, it's very egotistical, people slinging around weights in a gym, or, prioritizing the way that they look or anything like that. But as soon as they experience that, it's like, okay, I never want to go back, because now I feel like I have more energy. I have more confidence. I have more mental stability now. I have my strength back, whatever it may be. There's so many more benefits to it that has a transcendence effect on other areas of your life. And of course, who doesn't want to feel better? Who doesn't want to think clearer? Everybody does. But a lot of us have become accustomed to, this is as good as it gets because I don't know any different, and, that's why I always tell people, like, everybody should be working out if you want to increase your bone density, if you want to live a longer, healthier life. You don't necessarily have to go to a CrossFit box or, compete in a bodybuilding show or anything like that. But as long as you have some sort of movement, they've studied the blue zones, and in Okinawa, the people there that live to a disproportionate age, centenarians, they'll sit and stand on the floor on average 50 times a day. That's their resistance training. They're not losing their balance and breaking a hip and dying 6 months later. So I encourage everybody to get some type of movement in, because, of course, you not only you're going to feel better, but you'll look better as well. Your skin's clearer. You're not looking like you're aging as much as, like I look at people that I grew up with and I go back, I'm like, damn, they look old, but they're the same age as me, but they've lived a very different life. You just have to choose your poison.
Yep. Talk to me about the DTP training technique. I know, you've done these things so long, you've developed, your own plans. How do you work with people, and what is the technique?
Okay, so it stands for Dramatic Transformation Principle. I just coined that because I came across this training protocol by accident due to injuries. I was training, I don't know if any of your listeners would have heard of Dorian Yates. So I was training like Dorian Yates style, which is very, very heavy duty. I got to know Dorian really well, and I really liked his philosophy. But what I realized is that my body just could not take it. I'm very much smaller boned. Of course, I've had a lot of previous injuries. And I figured, well, I don't want to stop training, because that is like my AA batteries. It keeps me very mentally balanced. So what can I do to work around these injuries? So I thought, okay, well, I'll just do like 50 reps instead of 5 or 15 reps, so I don't have to put so much stress onto the joint or the connective tissue. And then when I did so, and like the next week, let's say I felt a little bit better, then I'd do the 50 and then increase the weight to like where I reached failure at 40 repetitions, and then 30, and then 20, and then 10. So I decided to do a protocol that had a pyramid style. So you'd start off at like 50 reps as your first set, 40 reps as your second set, 30, 20, 10, and then you do 10 again and work your way back up, obviously having a rest interval between those sets. But I found that my body responded way better to that. It was very simple. It was basic. You could do it in a hotel gym. And that my body was taking a better shape. I was getting a little bit more fuller. I was looking a little bit more denser. You could see the inserts in the muscle group from one to the next being more defined. So I thought, okay, maybe there is something to this. And I started training other athletes and bodybuilders doing the same kind of protocol. And they found that they were able to get just as good results, if not better, but work around injuries or prevent injuries. So that's kind of how it come about. And it is very, very taxing on your central nervous system. So I do suggest to people, maybe do it 4 days straight, possibly 5 if you're really sleeping well, if you're in a parasympathetic state, and then take a day off and then hit it again.
So high volume, so reps is what
high volume and high intensity. So very short rest periods, especially when you're doing the higher repetitions. When we start going to the lower repetition range, the rest periods are extended a little bit to ensure that we replenish our ATP, because that is going to be the primary source of fuel with the lower reps.
Are the lower reps heavier weight?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so it's all weight driven. So high rep, but very low. I mean, if you're doing 50 reps, it's probably I don't know what percent of your max.
Yeah. It's a lower weight, but you still should go as heavy as you possibly can to reach failure at that 50. So I usually try to pick a weight where I'll reach failure at, say, 40 repetitions, but then I'll rest pause until I get to 50, if that makes sense. So failure is still achieved regardless of the weight.
Yep. And when you get to the lower reps, I mean, are you getting to, I imagine it's less than what it might have been if you were only doing low reps, right? Like
for sure.
If I did 3 sets of 15 of something, that weight might be up here, but by the time you've done the 50, 40, 30, you get down, it's more than the 50, but it's less than it would have been otherwise, right?
Oh, for sure. Like if I was to go into, like 10 reps after just warming up, I'm going to be so much stronger going into that first working set than say, I've done 5 sets before that. That was high repetitions in particular. So yeah, you're going to be more fatigued. But the great thing is that you're not going to put as much stress on your connective tissues, tendons, ligaments, your joints, etc. But you're still going to reach failure within the muscle. The muscle doesn't always recognize the type of trauma. It just recognizes trauma. So you have myofibular hypertrophy. You have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. One or the other is kicking in.
And that actually goes, I mean, I think there's a lot of styles and techniques now, so I don't want to say that it's going against the mainstream, but it is in a way, because I think a lot of people still just think heavier weight, bigger muscles, right? I mean, it's just not accurate,
and you'll see,
right?
You'll see a lot of bodybuilders now go into more volume, more intensity. Arnold used to train with a lot of volume and intensity. It was only until like Arthur Jones and then Dorian Yates and these kind of guys and Mike Mensa really focused on the heavy duty, and that's where it kind of become popular. But then as injuries started to set in and people looking for more longevity in this sport, and people are definitely older in bodybuilding compared to what they were many years ago, where people would achieve championship status in their early 20s. That's not happening until their mid-30s now. So, of course, people want more longevity within the sport, so then they have to train accordingly.
Is there age? Does age have a play a role in this, or does it really matter? Like, just as far as this type of style working for someone? So
it all comes down to their recovery more than anything. If somebody is in their 70s training this way, of course they're not going to train with the same intensity as I am in my 50s. It's going to be different either way. The amount of weight that they're able to push is going to be lessened. But it all comes down to that person's recovery and the way that they're living their life. If they're sleeping well, if they're in a parasympathetic state, if they're controlling their environment, they're hydrated, their nutrition's in place, supplementation, then of course they can still push it as well. I always look at people's biological age more than their chronological. Chronological only matters on your driver's license, Biological, that really matters because that tells me the basis of your health within. Of course, I'll look at DNA, I'll look at blood, but biological age test is usually the one. And you mentioned earlier, people usually come to me for change if they've seen a fit picture of themselves and they're out of shape, or they have a hospital visit and they have a doctor scare. This is why I try to get all my clients to do a biological age test, because when they see, or if they see, that their biological age is much higher than their chronological, usually that scares the shit out of them. They're like, tell me what to do. I want to do it all,
Yeah, immediately. That's the wake-up call right there.
The quantification is like carrying little personal trainers with us everywhere. We have these smart rings and smart watches and 24-hour blood glucose monitors. They're all basically keeping us accountable.
How do you feel about all the research and all the stuff that's happening, like peptides and all that stuff? Where do you fall in that camp?
Yeah, so I've been a huge fan of peptides for about 8-9 years now. I think they're absolutely awesome, specific to that person's needs. So if that person has higher kidney levels, they want to help their pineal gland, they want to reduce their biological age, which helps with the lengthening of their telomeres, or they have injuries, then peptides have phenomenal benefits. So I take BPC 157 and through oral and injectable, because it's just so good for my injuries, my tendons. Now, is it as good as stem cells? If I fly to Mexico and have stem cells? No. But it's going to cost a lot more for me to get those stem cells, and it's going to be much more invasive. So I think it's phenomenal. And we have what's called peptide bioregulators as well, which are mostly oral, but that can really help with the brain drive, memory recall. There's a peptide that's specific for eye health. So I know there's a couple of people in the UK that had a degenerative disease, meaning that they would have been blind by the time they're like 19 or 18, but now they're 25 years old and still have perfect eyesight. So I think there's a lot to be said for peptides when used in the right environment.
Yeah, it's crazy how individualistic from liver, like what you can target with each one. I mean, I've been reading a ton of that. We've had people on the show, but just how specific of, problems or opportunities, as you call it, to improvement that they can target. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So you have people that maybe have thyroid issues. Let's say they're on thyroxine or, some sort of medication. Sometimes people will take the peptides and be able to get off their medication. So, some people say, hey, well, I don't want to be dependent. Well, wouldn't you want a better life if you are dependent on this as opposed to medication? So, yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. How about on the other side of that coin? Not something you probably have to worry about with all the activity, but the weight loss peptides. It seems like it's a slippery slope. Like in one ways, you want people to lose weight, and if it's improving heart health and diabetes and all that, great. But then I don't know. Is it a slippery slope, or is it all good?
Well, I guess it all depends what peptide it is. So you have what's it called, A6304 or something. That's one sequence of amino acids that helps mobilize fatty acids. And then you have these growth hormone secretagogues like testosterone, ipamorelin, that can help mobilize fatty acids. I don't see any issues with that. Should that person have a requirement for it? I've got a friend of mine who did a stack of these different peptides, and he'd been trying to lose weight for years and years and years. He actually lost weight. Maybe that gave him the accountability to eat cleaner because now he's spending all this money and he doesn't want to waste it. Who knows? But then when you have things like these GLP-1 agonists, such as semaglutide, that's where I have an issue, because there's people that I know, for instance, that have been on semaglutide for about a year and a half, yet the doctor has not given them any suggestions on what they should eat, any suggestions that they should exercise because now they're losing muscle mass and bone density. None of that. So one of these individuals is still eating crap, eating shit. They haven't really lost weight, but they're eating less of the crap. So I think it's a wrong mindset for a lot of people. Like, there should be a nutritional protocol. There should be an evaluation after, say, 3 months. And it should be regulated a lot more because, obviously there's financial gain to it. So I'm always very suspicious to something that has massive gains.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in the workout world, right?
yeah, exactly. Looks can be deceiving sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Kris, talk to me about what you're doing with Unmatched and the supplement company as a whole. Like, what's your vision and where are you guys going with it?
Yeah, so we launched it about 5 months ago. The response has been awesome. Like, we're sold through all vitamin shops. I've been on the Vitamin Shop Wellness Council for quite a number of years. So, it's great to work with them. And, we're sold in Dubai, in India, UK. The demand has been really, really good. So our focus now is just to expand the SKUs, the lines. So we're working on a collagen. Well, we've actually formulated these products now that I'm mentioning, a collagen, an AM and PM fat burner, a testosterone optimization supplement. There's a fermented glutamine, for instance, and we're actually working on like a healthy snack mix and meal replacement bar and protein bar as well. Again, all naturally sweetened. So, there's quite a lot that's in the hopper, a fiber supplement, etc. So that's the next step. That's keeping me busy. So I've got to do a lot of content surrounding that as well. I've got a gym franchise in India. I've got another gym opening happening in March, straight after the Arnold Classic. So these things are keeping me busy. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to say no to a lot of speaking engagements so I can actually enjoy Potato Land here of Boise because I spend my summers away. I spend a lot of my winters away. This time I want to stay put.
I love it. Yeah. More mashed potatoes for Kris, I'm sure.
Yeah. Time to carb load, man.
Yeah, exactly. Kris, where can everybody keep up with everything you got going on, your supplement company, etc.?
It's probably best if people go to my Instagram. That's the best hub. And if people have any questions, they can message me there, which is Kris, Kris, Gethin, Gethin.
Great. Kris, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Love what you're doing. Appreciate your energy and just the vibe in general.
Of course, man. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hey, guys, you know where to find us, vibescience.com. We'll have links to all of Kris's stuff, Unmatched supplements. Get you some creatine with GAA from Unmatched. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science.
Content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.